Even without a crystal ball, no one can tell whether economic situation in our country will deteriorate to the point that we may need a survival garden to survive. It's definitely not possible to know exactly what the future may hold for us, but if you are like me and want to be as ready as possible for any potential emergency, growing your own food is one of the most useful things you can do. But planning a survival garden, which will sustain our families in times of need, requires a bit more consideration than regular gardening. First thing, you will want to include some high-calorie vegetables and starchy staple crops in your survival garden plan. You would also want to grow produce that stores well and you can use it throughout the year. Vegetables that grow fast are great to have in survival garden because you can put food on the table really fast. And of course, you want to grow things that are full of vitamins and minerals. So let's talk about some of the veggies that fit into these categories. And the first one on our list will be potatoes, which are one of America's favorite staple crops. Potatoes are somewhat easy to grow. They will do well in ground, in large containers, and once the plants are established, you can carefully dig in and harvest those tiny new potatoes, or let them go till fall and harvest a large full-size potatoes. Not only potatoes are high in calories, they are also keeping well through the winter, and you can also preserve them by either dehydrating, freezing, or canning. Sweet potatoes are also high-calorie root vegetables. They take a long growing season and a large space in your garden, but it's so worth it because they are nutritious, delicious, and store well in the winter too. And what's great about sweet potatoes is that the foliage is edible too, so you can eat sweet potato greens throughout the whole growing season without harming the production of roots. Carrots are another survival crop that I would include in every garden because they are delicious. They make every meal better. They are highly nutritious, full of vitamins, and relatively easy to grow. Beets are similar to carrots. They are also root vegetables that can be stored just like carrots. People around the world grow enough beets and carrots in the summer and store them in root cellars or basements for the whole winter to use. You can even leave them in the ground and pull them out when you need them. Unless the ground is frozen, of course, then you would want to pull them out beforehand. You can also preserve carrots and beets by pickling them and other ways of canning. Also, you can dehydrate them, make carrot and beet chips, and freeze them, of course. What's great about beets, same as carrots, that the foliages are so edible. You can eat the greens throughout the growing season. Of course, make sure not to pick all of it, otherwise the root will not grow. If bread is staple in your kitchen, you will need to grow some grains, but they are not easy to grow, especially wheat and barley. But corn is a great alternative. It grows easily and you can make a lot of things out of the corn. Corn stores well too, and you can preserve it by canning or freezing too. Most people who have been gardening are familiar with growing green beans. And the dried beans you can get at the store, right? They come from a plant just like that, but the pods are allowed to mature completely and the seeds or beans from inside the pods are removed from the shell and dried for storage. Dry beans are high in calories, very nutritious, and can be stored indefinitely. Winter squashes and pumpkins aren't quite as calorie dense as the other vegetables I've talked about, but they are relatively easy to grow and they store well as the staple crop. They are vining plants, so they take a lot of space, but they produce really generously and they can last throughout the whole winter season. Cabbages don't store as well as pumpkins and squashes, but it can stay fresh for a really long time as well if stored under right conditions. And cabbage is highly nutritious. It's really a staple for many people in many countries and cuisines. You can eat it raw, cooked, or even preserve it by making sauerkraut, which is even healthier to consume than raw cabbage. I personally can't imagine my life and garden without some cabbage. Now that we've talked about high-calorie foods and also those that store well, let's talk about some fast-growing veggies that are high in nutrition. Things like kale and spinach. They grow really fast, they're full of nutrition, really healthy for us to consume these foods, and they can make some boring meals much better. Herbs and microgreens are also growing really fast and are packed with vitamins and minerals so necessary for survival garden. So this is my list of survival crops to have in your garden. If you have any ideas and recommendations, please write them below in the comment section.